for those who are brothers, you are entitled to all the privileges that a Master Mason can have. And just because you're entitled to them doesn't mean that they are there at the ready for you. Maybe it's because of your lodge or because of your district, or maybe it's for other restrictions, whatever they may be. Just don't be complacent. If there's something that is available to you in Masonry and you think it could have a positive impact in your life, go out there and get it. Ask of your leadership for it to be available to you.
Hello, friends. Hello, brothers. This is Justin with Masonic Improvement. I am joined here today with the guru of Goliath himself, the legendary Rat Marshal Dennis Yates.
Now I'm legendary. Earlier, I could have been, just fried bologna. You would have never known. So anyways, tonight is a great night. We have we're with one of the legends of the podcast world and the Freemasonry podcast world. This guy has been doing it for years now, and his podcast is one of the ones that I started listening to way before Justin ever came into the picture, and I really appreciate him and the dignity that he brings to Freemasonry and the talks that he brings to us. And brothers, I'd like to introduce you to Juan Sepulveda. That's it, right?
Sepulveda,
right?
That's right.
Yes, yes.
Good evening, brothers. Nice. Good to see you. Thank you so much for having me. It's definitely something I was looking forward to, and I appreciate you having me tonight.
It's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to this ever since we had that first contact with each other on TikTok, and so I've also followed your stuff for quite a while. As soon as you said you're up for it, I knew this was going to be good. I am pumped.
Thank you. Hopefully I don't disappoint you.
I'm sure you will not.
He's excited. You probably will afterwards. He's just excited that there's somebody besides me on here to talk with, because I lower the bar and he needs that equilibrium to bring it back up. So he needs you. So he's very happy.
All right. One, let's just start off the bat. Tell us about your Masonic journey. What got you into the fraternity?
My first contact with Masonry was in Puerto Rico. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I early on got an opportunity to see relatives of mine being described with such elegance and such honor and such pride because they were Masons. I remember being at a funeral, and the man who was speaking was talking about a relative of mine and expressed what a great individual he was and how proud they were to have him in the community and how fortunate they were. And he mentioned, and as you know, he is the worshipful master of our lodge, or was the worshipful master of our lodge. And I remember being shocked, like, what is a worshipful master? And what kind of lodge? So I became very interested. This is an aspect of this man that I just didn't know. So over the years, I asked questions, I approached him, I expressed my interest in learning more about it. And he always led by example. So I did learn a lot from him. And eventually, when I moved here to the States, I'm in Florida. Excuse me. I moved to Kissimmee, Florida. In my studies, I came across Freemasonry, and I started looking into it further and trying to understand what it was about, what kind of men were part of it. And everything that I was finding lined up with the kind of man I was and the kind of man that I wanted to become. So I did what I recommend to everybody who is interested in Masonry and doesn't know many Masons. I reached out to a local lodge. So I picked up the phone and I called and I told them that I wanted to learn more about what Freemasonry was about. And they said, of course, come over. We'll sit down, answer your questions. You'll get to answer some of ours, and we'll take it from there. And the rest is history. I showed up that day, spoke with a few brothers there. Well, they weren't brothers at the time. And I was just fascinated with it. And we hit it off. They invited me to come back again for another dinner and to continue speaking with them and all that. And eventually I petitioned, and I was very proud to be accepted into the fraternity.
Very nice.
That was the very beginning of it.
So with that being said, how did you feel after you joined? What did it meet your expectations? We're not familiar with Florida lodges, so I'm very curious to know if it checked off all the boxes, or if it was a little different than what you thought, or what.
It clearly was way more complex than what I expected. It had a lot of different layers that I wasn't aware of. Mm-hmm. Freemasonry as a whole did meet my expectations. It was that system of morality that I came to expect. It did have the richness of the rituals and the profundity of the lessons contained therein. So I was very satisfied with Freemasonry as a whole. Now, you don't have to be from Florida to know that one lodge is different than another, and different than the one right next to it. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of variants here in Florida from one lodge to the other. Some put a lot of emphasis on the education, others put a lot of emphasis on the fellowship. So it was interesting for me to see that diversity within the organization itself. But I was pleased with what I found, of course, and it checked most of the boxes that I was expecting. But I wasn't expecting impossible things.
But you did check off those boxes through travel and
correct.
not just sitting in your home lodge, and which is something that we encourage all the time. And that's something that everybody should remember is that every lodge has its own dynamic, and it's very important to travel. Yes.
And that's a very good point. Especially I am very self-driven. I try not to rely on other people for the things that I'm looking for. If there's something that I need, I try to take the steps necessary to make sure it happens. And so wherever, let's say, Masonic education wasn't being prioritized, it didn't make, of course, that part is disappointing, but I would make up for it through my own studies, through my own connection with brothers, through the travels, like you mentioned, which is essential. So if there's always, it's what we are entitled to, all the privileges that Masonry entails, they're there for you. So waiting for them to be handed to you perhaps is not the right approach. Mm-hmm. Finding out, okay, they told me I was going to get some immortality elixir. Where do I get it?
Where's the real Constitution at?
Exactly.
Yeah. I used to always say that that the saying, you get out of Freemasonry what you put into it, was kind of a cop-out. And to some extent, I still think a lot of people use it as a cop-out. But once I started traveling and being really involved with degrees and just things I was really passionate about, I come to realize that there is definitely some truth to that. You can just pay the dues and go to lodge once or twice a month, not visit anybody, not go anywhere outside your little circle, and you won't get anything out of it. You'll get to a point real quick where that lodge is offering you everything that it can, and unless you start traveling and unless you really put yourself out of your comfort zone and explore beyond the horizon, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it. But when you do, man, I'm telling you, it's a whole new world out there.
Yeah, I know a lot of brothers where that phrase rubs them the wrong way. Just like the phrase of be the change you want to see. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's an annoying phrase to a lot of people, but it's true. Like many of these platitudes are rooted in some sort of truth. Mm-hmm. And you get out of Masonry what you put in. You can replace that with you get out of model airplane building what you put in, and you get out of your RC car racing what you put in. Mm-hmm. It's a self initiative kind of claim. Yeah, you get out of life whatever you put into life. If you're enthusiastic, if you're a go-getter, if you're loving, compassionate, that's what you're going to get from life. At the end, you're going to have all these memories of these great things, or you can go about life just hemming and hawing and complaining and just being a sourpuss. And then, that was your life. Your life was just a collection of disappointments and upsetting things. Yeah. So I do recognize that not everybody has the initiative to get out of Freemasonry what other people tell them they can get. Mm. Like, where do I go to read? Like, what kind of groups do I join? What kind of people do I connect with in order to get what I'm looking for in Masonry? So that's where brothers like you and I come in. We get here behind the microphone and we try to encourage brothers to say, listen, the stuff that you need and you want is out there. Mm-hmm. Here's some places where you can get started, and listen to us next week. And I'll give you a couple more tips so that you can go in that direction. But I think that's part of the role that I see that we play.
Oh, this is where mentorship, I think, becomes really important, helping brothers to find these things like what you're talking about. However, I'll also say I didn't have that. And I think there's also a great amount of value that comes from seeking mm-hmm. on your own and finding on your own. It may depend on the person. I don't know the answer to this. I think as older members, we should strive to mentor new members to the best of our ability. But I also think that there's a certain point where the brother has to realize I really enjoy reading about Freemasonry more than I enjoy doing the degrees. And then they have to take it on themselves to find those resources. And somewhere down the road, they may mentor somebody and that will be where they start, but they will also have to find their own path.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I was going to say, which is very similar to what you were going to say, except a little bit. I think it's a combination of both. And I think that, yes, we have to have mentorship out there, and lodges have to actively pursue a mentorship program and have the mindset that they are going to figure out what makes a brother tick and help him in his journey to find the Freemasonry that he wants. Now that's to the lodge. That's on the lodge. Now, on the other hand, as you're saying, Juan, I truly believe that, yes, it's in our lessons that we learn. It's our duty to ask, seek, and knock. It's our duty to make that effort and to pursue what we're looking for in life. If time is too short to waste it, and that is the ultimate lesson in Freemasonry is death is always at our shoulder. So we need to make proper use of our time and do what we can to help those things happen in our life. You know, almost like have you seen the secret book that's out there, The Secret, to where you can will everything into your life? And you know, it's almost like that though. When you have that positive,
it's not a very good secret if it's a best-selling book and documentary.
well,
it can't be good if it's secret. It
It
has to be something
I guess,
negative.
I guess that's what let the secret of Freemasonry out. Dang it. So, but the reality is though, is that is a profound secret in life that people just don't contemplate. And hopefully in Freemasonry, they'll slow down and contemplate those thoughts and realize that they are living the best life they can have because they are making those choices that get them in front of the people that can help them achieve what they want to achieve.
Juan,
Yeah, I like that.
go ahead.
No, that I like how like when you mentioned, you know, seek and you shall find, knock and it'll be open up to you, like that. Yeah, that's how life is. If you sit around and just wait for these opportunities to show up, yeah, maybe some opportunities show up, but if you're not actively preparing for the moment when those opportunities show up, then
will you? Yes. Well, can you even take it on? Can you even? Yeah. Will you even be able to appreciate it and you know, dive in all in?
Yeah.
You know, yes, that's a big thing right there. If you're not preparing in the process, even while you're waiting, if you're not preparing, then you may miss it altogether.
Yeah, well, it falls through your fingers.
Yes.
If you have a goal and you're working towards it, you're constantly preparing yourself for it. Right.
Yes.
However, if it just falls in your lap one day and you've been sitting on your couch for the last 2 years just waiting for some divine intervention to make things go your way, that's all well and good, but you may not be the person that you need to be to handle whatever that may be. So it's all about being proactive.
Yeah, in applying, as we go through this journey in Masonry, and sometimes people have their sights set on, oh, I want to reach the Master Mason degree. I cannot wait to get my Fellowcraft degree. I cannot wait to do the Master Mason degree, and I cannot wait to join Scottish Rite. And like, there's always this long range horizon gaze, and you're stepping over your own feet. You're not even applying some of these lessons into your life. This rush to go through degrees, I've expressed myself, you know, very vocally about it. It is beautiful for you to be able to claim that you are, you know, whatever degree and you've reached whatever level, but what's the point if the lessons that are contained within each and every one of those degrees have just gone over your head? So
yes,
it's savoring that moment and applying those lessons to your life. I recognize that I still have plenty to apply to my life from the entered apprentice degree.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've always felt that the degree process is far too quick in most lodges. And because there's just so much to learn as far as the EA and a Fellowcraft. I mean, the Fellowcraft alone is a lifetime worth of study. And clearly I'm not saying you have to master everything before you move on, but have enough time to really, I don't know how the memory work is in Florida, but to memorize everything you have to memorize before you can progress. And I've always been a fan of requiring them just to present something before the lodge, like just write a short paper about whatever symbolism is most important to you. Show us that you have started down this path of internalizing the things that you have learned, because you can memorize everything.
In Texas. Yeah.
No, you don't. It's not required to do that in Texas.
Yeah, I just wanted to let people know that are listening. If they're, but in Texas, it's not required. But yes, that would be a great.
Yeah, you can memorize everything verbatim and spit it back perfectly, and still be no different a person than you were when you petitioned for your EA degree, if you're not internalizing those lessons.
Sure. True. We do have in Florida, we do have catechism. So once you go through the inter-apprentice degree, you have to memorize the answers to certain questions. Some people go the extra mile, they memorize the questions and the answers, which I think that's the ideal if you do that.
Well, then they can teach other people as soon as
exactly. Yeah. Or they can show off and just stand up in front of the brothers and ask the questions and the answers.
That's the only way I could do it, because I had to shut my eyes and just do it, because with everybody sitting there looking at me, it was tough. It was tough.
Isn't it hard imagining Dennis having difficulty talking?
I think we can all. We have no problem. And they give us these handy microphones.
Right.
We go nuts with
You know what? With another interesting thought that came to my mind while y'all were talking about this is a lot of times there's so you're absolutely right that here in America and in Freemasonry in general, it's the only place you are given a title before you earn it. So we're made, and we go through each degree and we're given this title before we ever earn it. So it's kind of backwards, but it is what it is. And I am not going to mess with tradition and Freemasonry. So don't scold me, people. But no, what I was thinking though is that a lot of times we will look at brothers and we will think that their pursuits are in vain. And there's been people that go through the chairs of the grand line and things like
Careful,
that.
Dennis.
And people say, well, no. People say, these guys are trying to, they're just trying to get that title or whatever. They just, they're just showboats or whatever. But in reality, these guys have been working for so long, and they've been working towards this goal, and they didn't just sit back and let Freemasonry happen to them. They took charge of how they wanted Freemasonry to be for them, and so they went for it. So to discount the hard work and ethics that any of these grand officers ever do, whether you like them or not, those guys went through some blood, sweat, and tears to get where they are. And we should, at the very, very least, respect that. And then, in reality, as a brother master mason that is stepping up and putting themselves out on the line and putting their reputation in front of the world for everybody else to criticize, all in the name of trying to help our fraternity, man, my hat's off. It doesn't matter if I believe everything that they do or whatever, but man, my hat's off to those guys, because that it takes a real man to be that kind of a Mason. I'm just saying.
No, it's hard.
It takes nerves of steel. Nerves of steel.
And you see this dynamic in many other aspects. Like you see someone, for example, joins the local government, and then people are like, this guy's angling for a contract or this.
Yes.
And there's always that suspicion of people. Yeah, granted, not everybody has the best intentions whenever they are seeking power. But I was thinking about this the other day, when people that are, like you said, working so hard for so long, and they have these ideals that they want to implement in the fraternity. They recognize that there are things that we are just lacking on that we should be doing. And the way to implement it is to have enough of a voice and a vote to make it happen. So it does require some of the politicking and some of the.
It does. It's
an art in its own.
You're working within a volunteer system. You've got to be able to work with people and give and take to be able to make that happen.
Yep.
No matter what level. Ask any workforce master out there.
And for the brothers who are listening, who are perhaps have these kinds of positions in their scope, just remember there will be people that look at you with suspicion. Just don't sacrifice the ethics that you are trying to implement. Don't sacrifice the principles that are going to take you all the way up there. And for the brothers who don't care for those leadership positions, just recognize these men need your support. And
right,
yeah,
like they say, if you see some sort of behavior that you are you're not 100% convinced is adequate, remember, I think it's Harlan's razor. Don't attribute to malice where it could be easily explained by stupidity. So
I haven't heard that, but I like it.
Yeah, it's just figure out like what's the deal? How come this is not happening, or how come this is different than what you mentioned it was going to be?
Yeah.
Well,
nice.
Instead of just going around and being like a gossip person.
So Juan, you are the host of The Winding Stairs, which is, in my opinion, a very positive force for Masonry. And I was wondering if you would tell us just a little bit what inspired you to create The Winding Stairs and the direction you had in mind for it.
Of course. When I joined Masonry and I started progressing through the degrees and getting involved in my lodge, I quickly took on leadership positions. I got involved in the officer line. I got involved in different committees, and it was something that I really, really enjoyed. However, at home, it was very difficult for me to be able to commute to lodge. My wife, she was a professional. She was in corporate America, and it was very uncertain as to when she was going to be available and when not. So there would be moments where she would show up just like 30 minutes before I could go to the lodge. So it was difficult for me to be able to make a commitment and do it. So there was that level of uncertainty. So I had to step back and say, okay, well, I can't right now. The dynamic is not really working. So I'll step back and everybody goes, or I got stepped back, one of the two. But I still had that desire to lead and to learn and to communicate about Masonry. And I had been a consumer of podcasts for many, many years already at that point. This is back in 2012, I want to say. 2000, yeah. So I had been influenced before joining by some podcasts. Back then, there was one called The Digital Freemason, which was they would read, the brother would read like these short Masonic bulletins. There was Eric Diamond from Ex Oriente and RJ from Whence Came You.
Yeah.
So because I was such a heavy consumer of podcasts, I thought, well, this would be ideal for me to be able to fulfill that desire that I had to learn and teach and convey information and motivate. I can do that through the podcast. So I started taking the steps to put together the podcast. I originally had thought about calling it, I think it was like it was something about columns. So it was like a certain number of columns. And there was a website that already had that name. And then I remember the Winding Stairs lecture, and I love that progression. I love the fact that, okay, this is symbolically this journey that you're going to take, that's going to take you higher and higher as you move through learning these different things. This is ideal. I'll just focus on going up the winding stairs in the podcast. So that was the original idea. And the first microphone I had was just like one of those old Microsoft plug and play, kind of like joystick looking microphones.
I think we all had those at one time.
Right. so little by little, I started working on it, putting together my content, and I was very surprised about how quickly brothers embraced it, how brothers were, it resonated with so many brothers from all over. And that was a motivator for me. It's like, okay, well, there's other guys out there that need to hear what I have been learning lately. So I dug in fully and started doing it all the time. And about a year after that, I received a phone call from RJ, which at this point was a friend. I said RJ is Robert Johnson. He's the host of Whence Came You. For those of you who have been, who don't know, who haven't searched for Freemasonry podcasts before.
Right.
So he called me up and he said, hey, listen, like I've been talking to this brother from Virginia, and he has this idea to put together a group of brothers and create content together and do like a weekly roundtable show of some sort. And I said, like, if you're in, and like, I don't know this brother you're talking about, but if you're in, I'm in. Let's do this. And like, that was the birth of the Masonic Roundtable. So we started in, I want to say 2014 or late 2013 or 2014, what is it? And I was with them for 7 years, 357 episodes later.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was an amazing ride as well. So
yes,
during the time that I was doing those weekly podcasts in the Masonic Roundtable, of course, I was already fulfilling that desire to produce content. So I wasn't doing as many episodes of the Winding Stairs. And last year, I made the decision to, say goodbye to the boys and, focus my energy a little bit better, because I was a little scattered at that point. And I'm very happy with how things have turned out. So they're still going strong.
And that's okay, because the more content we have out there, in general, the better it is for Freemasonry, because it's just like the lodges. Each one has its own dynamic, and each one's going to talk to a brother in a certain way, and so it's what I thought was really cool. Though I was getting excited. Justin couldn't tell because he just doesn't pay attention to me anymore.
Yeah, I kind of tune you out.
What'd you say?
No.
Yeah.
But,
when'd you get here?
Yeah, exactly. But I was getting really excited. You were talking about that you had listened to a bunch of podcasts. You had been listening to podcasts for years. Now, what's really funny is that I'm from a little bit of a different generation, and I can really solidify myself with the Barney generation, the old dinosaurs out there, because I used to drive around in my truck listening to different motivational speaker CDs and tapes. It started with tapes and then progressed into CDs, and I didn't go into MP3s until probably 5-10 years later than most people did.
Then it started off with 8 tracks.
Hey,
Abraham Lincoln on 8 track.
I love my Buddy Holly, buddy. That's that. I grew up on Buddy Holly on an 8 track.
Yeah, I love all that.
But for real though, that I was that kind of a guy already. That I was always listening to other people, motivational speakers. My very favorite is Zig Ziglar. He's always been. He's ethical and promotional at the same time. And so I fed my brain that all my life. And then now we're in this, and this is just this is going up the stairway. It's another piece of the puzzle, Freemasonry following technology and utilizing technology to feed the people like us. That's basically what it's all about.
What really stuck out to me about that is we had just had a conversation about how it's important to go out and find what you're looking for. Right? You shouldn't expect things to fall in your lap. And then you describe a situation where you couldn't actively be in the lodge as much as you wanted to, so you brought Freemasonry to yourself. And I immediately made that connection when you started talking. I was like, yeah, this guy's he's practicing what he's preaching right here.
I appreciate it. And it really, it's a two-way road. I'm able to fulfill that need that I had to learn about Masonry and to implement the lessons of Masonry into my life. And then what better way than to cement that by sharing it immediately with people. And one of the things that I've tried to always emphasize is that I'm not showing you how to go up the winding stairs. This is our journey. If you look at my logo, if you look at like the subtitle, it's our journey up the winding stairs. So it's like we're walking along together up this winding stairs. And because I'm not perfect, I'm a brother like anybody else. And I have areas in which I am strong, and there are other areas in which I have room for improvement.
Yeah.
Because I'm not weak though.
Yeah. Well, we have the same conversation with Masonic improvement. It's not Dennis and I standing up here on some pedestal telling people how they should run their lodges.
Exactly right.
This is a journey we're all in together. And, and this is this is the reason for these conversations. I always take something away from these conversations. And I can't speak for Dennis, but I'm fairly sure he does too. And this is what helps me grow as a Mason. And if I'm benefiting from it, I'm sure that there are other people out there that are benefiting from it as well. Where this journey will take us, I don't know, but this is all about the journey itself.
Yes, I listen to our own podcast just as much as anybody else's, because I really do learn from, when we're in the middle of this conversation, but later on I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to have different thoughts than I had even this time based on what you said and what you've conveyed. So, it is a process, and that's why I listen to the CDs all my life, because you learn something every time. You catch on to something every time.
Yeah.
And the soothing buttery voices also helps.
Oh, yes. Yes. I also wanted to throw in there that, along with both points, is that, we travel around and we meet other people so that we can sharpen ourselves. And not only that, but we can actually effectively help other brothers.
Yes.
Today is a perfect example. There's a brother in need, and somebody in the very southern part of Texas told me about a brother that was in need up in North Texas. And because I've traveled and I've known certain brothers, I made 2 phone calls, and those other brothers are going to fill the need of that person up in North Texas with 2 phone calls, and it's handled. And I don't even have to get back.
That sounds a lot like the conversation you and I had earlier today.
Well, imagine that. You just happen to get to be part of that.
Oh, boy.
But it's such a cool thing that, we really do. And I'm sure you have the same situation, that you meet so many people and you learn so much. And if somebody comes to you with a need, you are a lot more apt to be able to fill that need and to be the best brother you can be to that brother at the time, because you took the steps necessary to put yourself out there.
Yep. And there's a point I wanted to make. If you go to the windingstairs.com, you'll see that my main point of contact with brothers is my podcast, my YouTube, is my content creation. However, it is all it's all funded by the sales that I make through my Masonic apparel, my Masonic art. I'm an artist by trade, so that's what I do. I make paintings.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, my paintings are part of private and public collections, around the States and around the world. And that's how that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking about auction items here. So
I saw on TikTok you're drawing the what was that? It was the tavern. Which tavern?
The Green Dragon Tavern.
Yeah, you made a really nice shirt out of it.
Thank you. Thank you. But the point I was going to make is that people see what I'm showing. So people see the videos, people listen to the podcast, and people see that I have a store with merchandise that it's inspired by Masonry and the lessons that we can get through it. But there are other things that happen in my Masonic journey that I'm not boasting about. I'm not talking about them. All I can tell you is that whenever there's a world conflict or there's a natural disaster, like things happen. Things happen, and they happen by virtue of, like you mentioned, our ability to connect and put people together and that sort of thing. So when you mentioned earlier that Zig Ziglar, he was very ethical and he was, had a very great presence, but he was also a businessman. He was a marketing genius. And
yes, he was.
One doesn't necessarily cancel the other. And this is one thing that I had very clear from the very beginning of my journey with the brand of the Winding Stairs, is that I wasn't going to hold back on making it look professional, on utilizing the latest technology and utilizing the industry standard techniques of marketing and sales in order to make sure that I gave myself an opportunity for this brand to provide for itself and provide for the relief of brethren around the world. So just like you mentioned, sometimes people look with suspicion, or they may look at a brother. It's like, what's his angle?
Yeah.
Right.
There doesn't have to be an angle. All you have to do is ask the question or see the fruit of a person's labor, and then you have all the answers that you need.
I know what that there's this. I want to touch on this real quick, Dennis, because this is something that's always. It's like there's immediately any kind of suspicion when a brother Mason creates any kind of content and opts in to monetize that in some way, be it through ads or merchandise or Patreon or something like that. But here's the thing: if you have any hobby or any other interest, and you watch a podcast and they monetize that, and you find value in that, no one thinks twice to contribute to that. No one thinks twice about being joining their Patreon or buying a shirt or something like that. But for some reason, with Freemasonry, if you put a square and compass on something and you sell it in your store, a lot of people get very suspicious.
Yeah.
But I think we need to kind of break that mold.
Yep,
if you find value, so there's a saying that I like, and it's feed the things you want to grow and starve the things that got to go. So if you're finding value in a podcast, a Masonic podcast, or anything for that value, support it, because that allows them to upgrade their stuff and keeps them motivated. And I mean, I don't think any Masonic podcaster is out there trying to make his living off this content, right? But
not this guy.
Yeah, but like I do ads on YouTube, and that's what upgrades my stuff. That's what upgrades the mics and the lighting and everything. And
he gets the mics and lighting, and I can't even afford another bottle of scotch with what I make.
I'm the senior member of this duo here. But
it's not Christmas yet.
It's not Christmas yet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Your coal, it will be there. Don't worry, Dennis.
But the thing is, like, this goes deeper. It's not that some brothers get suspicious of whenever you add a level of professionalism or like sales or marketing or anything to it. They have no problems whatsoever buying cheap rings from China, cheap aprons from Pakistan, and they don't even know if these are brothers manufacturing them.
That's a good point.
Most of the time, they're not. But if they see a brother from within their jurisdiction who is making, good quality products or anything like that, they get up in arms. But for me, I have been a businessman all my life. I have the ability to completely ignore the person who is a naysayer or can't see the vision for something, because we could, think about this right now. Brothers like you and I, who are creating content, trying to deliver a positive message about Freemasonry, trying to help give brothers the tools for them to get the most out of their Masonic experience whenever maybe their lodge is not providing it or their jurisdiction doesn't make up for it. That effort needs to be supported somehow. And the better financially that our podcasts do through the Patreon or through our merchandise or anything like that, the more time we can spend creating content, the easier to justify it. Exactly. Because otherwise, just like a hobby, how many brothers out there picked up, like CB radio or something like that. And the line is drawn at a certain number. Well, I can get this receiver and I can only get this size antenna because I can't spend this much. And your hobby is going to, like, the graph of the progress of that hobby, it gets to a point where that's it. You can't improve anymore because, like, your wife is looking at you and saying, okay, like, how many more antennas do you need? Like, you already have the Antron and this and the whatever. But if you have a sponsorship for your YouTube channel for a CB radio, then there is a source of income that is coming, that is buying you the antenna. It's buying you the additional receiver. It's allowing you to create, spread the word about that particular hobby. So, it's an interesting dynamic, but brothers that are creating content, they need to focus on making sure that they're providing value to the brothers out there.
Absolutely.
And yes, the people that complain don't support anyway. So
right,
true.
Right.
Pay them no mind.
Well, and another thing that I was thinking earlier is that usually the people who are suspicious or think that somebody has suspicious intent or conspiratous intent, those are the people who fault from their own ideals. They're the ones that are the conspirators, and they're the ones that would only do it for their own gain or whatever. They wouldn't do it just because they love Freemasons. They do it because they love themselves. Yep. That's it goes right along with the bedroom town. You have all these different people gossiping back and forth, and they're all talking about each other, but
I know what you're talking about. Okay.
They're all perpetuating the same thing.
I was like, what the heck is a bedroom town? It's like my kids built a fort out of their mattress or something. You're talking about like a bedroom community.
It's what I live in. Bedroom community where everybody talks and everybody's suspicious of everybody. That's because they all have ill intent. If they didn't have ill intent in their heart, they wouldn't think that way. I always try to find the good in everybody and what the positive they're bringing to it, not what they're trying to get out of it. I don't care.
For your Spanish speaking listeners, I grew up with an expression that says "El ladrón juzga por su condición." In Spanish,
man, that sounded good. That makes
right? Isn't it sexy?
That was hot. That was hot. Let me tell you.
El ladrón juzga por su condición. In other words, the thief judges by his condition.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Like it's a very profound expression because it's a telltale sign. It may not be 100% accurate all of the time, but it gives you a little nudge and tells you, hey, pay attention. Watch what this person is. Watch what they're doing. So
yes,
I like that a lot. That's deep right there.
I was thinking in your own personal journey, have you have you been a master of a lodge? Are you a past master and all that? And okay,
no, I have not. The highest has been a senior deacon.
Okay. Have you gone on to get into Scottish Rite or York Rite or anything like that? Have you explored any of that?
Yeah, I am in the Scottish Rite. I'm a 32nd degree in the Scottish Rite. I am a Knights Templar in the York Rite. I belong to other bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to leadership, it has been a matter of not being able to commit to the time of, I'm going to be there this time and I'm going to be there at that time. Remember, I work for myself, but like for the longest time, my wife was at the mercy of whatever whims of corporate world. Now we have more flexibility. So I started becoming more active physically, and I was a senior deacon when the pandemic hit. So I was a senior deacon, and I was on my way to the east.
Yes,
but for a lot of reasons, I just could not be involved in the lodge and put my family at risk. So but
there's validity in that too. I mean, not doing it when you shouldn't. I mean, that's go ahead, Justin. I'm going to touch on that again.
I just want to say you use the term leadership, and I want to preface this by saying I'm not suggesting that the roles at the lodge or Grand Lodge level are not important. They will always play an important role in leadership. But I think as time goes on, we're starting to see leadership in the fraternity outside of the lodge and Grand Lodge, your traditional roles. And I think what I mean by that, and I'm not trying to inflate what we're doing here, but I think you're starting to see leadership appear in mediums such as this, where we're, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we're gonna release this podcast, and it's going to touch several hundred people. Most of them are probably Masons. That's definitely having some sort of influence.
Yes. And they keep coming back to listen because they're obviously we're saying something that resonates within their mind and spirit, and that's good. And we have a responsibility to keep that in mind when we're talking, and not just completely be idiots like I do sometimes.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that there's something about what you said that is so important. And I was talking to an older Mason yesterday about this very thing. And you said, with your own responsibilities and such, it wasn't the right time for leadership. And man, guys, that's so more important than just filling a chair. This old guy, he said, and he's one of my favorite mentors and one of my lodge mentors. And we were talking, and he said, if somebody comes in and says, yeah, I'll help out the lodge, I'm not going to vote him in. I'm going to stand up and nominate somebody else who's eager to be in there because they will help the lodge. The guy that says, oh, I'll come in and help the lodge, he's not going to do anything. He's just going in to fill a seat and on an egotistical platform, as instead of going in with a servant's heart, wanting to really be all in for the lodge. So I commend you for that. If you can't do it, you can't do it. If you can, you can. And we all serve in different ways. And you're serving on your podcast. I feel like, who was that again from way back in the day? We're not worthy.
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World. Yes. They're gonna have to do an episode like that.
Man.
But anyways, I feel like that because you've done so much with this, and you have been a leader in the Freemasonry podcast world.
And that's kind of you. Thank you.
That's very important.
Juan, I was curious if you had any final thoughts that you would like to add as we wrap this up, and also if someone whoever that may be, as unlikely as it may sound, if someone is out there that has Googled Masonic podcast and has not come across the Winding Staircase, where would they find you?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Some parting words. I would say for those who are brothers, you are entitled to all the privileges that a Master Mason can have. And just because you're entitled to them doesn't mean that they are there at the ready for you. Maybe it's because of your lodge or because of your district, or maybe it's for other restrictions, whatever they may be. Just don't be complacent. If there's something that is available to you in Masonry and you think it could have a positive impact in your life, go out there and get it. Ask of your leadership for it to be available to you. I remember early in my Masonic career, I did vocalize the fact that we weren't giving enough priority to Masonic education. And the brother that I spoke to, he turned to me and he said, "You're a Master Mason, right?" And I said, "Of course." I said, "I am." And he said, "Then demand of your master that which is entitled to you." So if you're not getting the Masonic education, ask for it. If they are not capable or not willing, find it, source it, present a paper. Like Justin was mentioning earlier, that he prefers that people do the work.
Yes.
And the work is important. The work is in other jurisdictions is mandatory. In order for you to progress, you have to bring in written work and present it for the brother. So maybe that's your angle. So if brothers, if you think that what I've expressed today is something that you want to hear more of, I invite you to go over to thewindingstairs.com. You can also find me in all social media. So you can find me in TikTok, you can find me in Instagram, you can find me on Facebook. Just go to thewindingstairs.com and there's links to all of those there. And brothers,
cool.
Thank you so very much for the time and the invitation. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, it's been an honor. Kyle, give me your I'm not Kyle. Jeez, sorry,
Kyle.
Dennis. I was thinking of someone else. Someone else that's chatty.
We had one. Yeah, we had
Dennis,
one of our
give
brothers
us your elevator pitch, your elevator farewell.
How big is this building?
2 stories.
I had to look at my elevator. It goes a long ways, brothers. Like we've talked about tonight, and we talk about regularly. If you're not getting your Freemasonry, we know the people that can help you get that Freemasonry. So it doesn't matter if you're, in Texas, in Florida, around the country. Collectively, I can say we probably know people in, three continents and and several republics. But seriously though, we can help. We can help you get it. We can help you find it. Be the difference. Have a positive attitude while you're looking for it. And don't forget, because in lieu of the education and everything, officer leadership training is coming up. Justin and I will be there. Being that he's a junior co-host, he's just a volunteer this year, but me being a committee member, I'll be there throughout every event, throughout the whole time, even though he's taking a little break to do Masonicon. But
Dennis may be the committee member, but there's a reason they brought me on to help.
I almost forgot to mention, we're going to have a detailed conversation about improving Masonic education over at the Winding Stairs with the illustrious Dennis and Justin from Masonic Improvement. So,
I've heard of those guys.
Yes,
I can't wait to hear about. Yes, I can't wait to hear that one. That's going to be an excellent podcast, I'm sure. My favorite co-host is on that one.
Nice.
That said, Dennis, Juan, I appreciate you both taking time out of your Friday evenings to come on the show and record this conversation. Juan, especially, like I said, I've been following your content for quite a while. I didn't realize how long it had been until you started throwing out like 2012, 2013. It's like, whoa, it has been a while. But
it's been about 3 years for me, for sure.
Yeah,
about
definitely,
3.
Definitely made a positive impact on my Masonic journey, and I'm sure you have touched countless other brothers. And so it means a lot. First of all, it means a lot to me that you do what you do, but also to come on to this show and share your thoughts and your expertise and everything else that we've talked about this evening. So thank you so much.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Thank you, brothers.
Our deal on the officer leadership training, mine and Justin's together, is on mentorship. And in reality, you didn't know it, but you've been a mentor to us.
Oh, wow.
In watching you and listening to you and understanding
Thank you.
what quality content can be for Freemasonry. If it wasn't for, people like you that put it out there, for as long as you have, we wouldn't have had that expectation so high to try to reach. And our show might not have been as successful.
It's like you're Yoda and I'm Luke and Dennis is C-3PO. And so having the opportunity to come talk to such a wise Jedi master is fantastic.
Wise words those are.